Yeah, I'm gonna read this out. Story I wrote about cars called Road Askew. The trouble all started with that. The road through the village didn't go that way. It stopped humbly at the end. They made it ambitious. They built a new road at the end of it, at right angles, snaking down to the river. This brought people up from the river we hadn't seen before. Where they came from, we didn't know, but they went up and down with the river. At first, they said they just wanted to trade, but they brought their diseases free. They weren't content with that. They extended their road past ours, upriver, into the forests and the hills of the Wild West. None of us went that way if ever we could avoid it. Then they closed the first road they had built to the traffic and said it was just for us. It was meant to be one road for us and another for them. Whereas we had only horses, strange machines began to use their road. Where they came from, nobody knew, but they didn't stop in the village. Nobody ever got out of these shiny steel new boxes on wheels, though we could see through them, through its windows. They used to hurtle through the high street on their way to the south. There was an outcry after one of us was knocked down by one of them, and then suddenly there were no more. Overnight, they had disappeared. We thought things had gone back to normal then. For a while they had. Then came the new normal. It started with the thunder. We clambered over the ridge to see what it was and saw our fields and trees being ripped up by the bright-eyed black monsters. We stood there helplessly. The air was not good to breathe there. We warned our children away from them. But as the new road was being built, they often went up there. Some of them were chased through the muddy fields, but they were no match for the new people. They had shiny, delicate shoes and shiny suits that flashed with gold, but these were of little use in the mud, and their legs weren't sturdy because they hardly ever used them. Their metal boxes must have sent them insane, because they were always enraged whenever they came out to them to chase us. It was like a sacrilege to their new religion. There was a rumour that in the early days, one or two of our own richest people owned these things. But then there were no more than steel cages, capable of going no faster than a trotting horse. A few more began to appear, and then suddenly they were told only people who had been given special passes could make them move. They disappeared from the village. They cut up our land to make new roads. Eventually, we were no more than a traffic island. It meant we couldn't feed ourselves, and we had to rely on them. They took pity on us. Once a week, a very big steel box dropped provisions for us. At first, we thought it was charity, but then they took the young and the healthy to work for them in return. Those who couldn't, they built huge barns for and made some of us into wardens to keep them there. But only those of whom they approved were allowed that privilege. It meant renouncing the old ways and swearing allegiance to the new people. It meant allowing oneself to be scrutinized at every level. It meant whereas before we all knew each other and knew who to trust and who we couldn't, now that trust was devolved to these new people, and it was they who decided who could be trusted and who couldn't. It meant an inquisition for anybody who wanted to be approved to work. It meant exposing every detail of your life, right from birth to them. If you tried to hide anything, even the tiniest, they would denounce you. To your peers as a non-person, and once you'd been turned out to beg somewhere else, nobody in the commune would talk to you again. Notice how the village had been quietly renamed to a commune. As ever with these small but subtle shifts, nobody seemed to know when or why that happened. But they didn't seem to question it. They disemboweled our village of everything they thought valuable and left us with the rest. Our youth, they lured with their shiny boxes. They promised them gold in faraway lands. They came back never to tell us they had made it. Only the old and the sick were left behind. Even they had to have permits to live. Those who refused were denounced and turned out into what was left of the country to starve or beg somewhere else. And it all started with that new road that joined onto ours at the end of the village. We never did find out where it went, but we should have just bricked it off and kept our dead end. At least we knew where that one went.